Hi friends, welcome back to the channel. In this video, I'm gonna give you a quick tutorial on how to make these lovely gift tags with your own hand lettering. I've shared my process in a free holiday workshop with my artist friends, and I thought it would be cool to show the process on my YouTube channel as well. All right, let's get started. If you would like to download the free PDF guide that comes with this video, check out the link in the description box below. The first step, we're gonna warm up our imagination so that we know what are the creative possibilities. I will do that by giving you a quick synopsis of each creative process. So for this tag, I started out with just using a marker to draw the block letter, and then I used the finer tip of the marker to draw the script letter on top. If you're not experienced with cursive writing, you can just Google cursive alphabet, so you should have some basic idea. And for the background, I used my colored pencil. And this one is painted very similarly. I started out writing out the letter with a marker, and then I painted with acrylic ink, actually acrylic gouache, because it has a pretty cool coverage. I watered it down a little bit so it doesn't cover the whole thing. And then on top, I used a black marker to cover this. Similarly, this one, I also used a marker, but instead of adding a second media, I just sketched out what my letter is gonna be and then colored the background and then erased my sketches. And this one is a wet on wet technique. So I used walnut ink on the background. While the ink is still drying, I used a brush that looks like this, which we're gonna use later. And this one is probably one of the quickest one. And for this one, I did sketch out the letter form with a pencil and then used a liner. You can also use a fountain pen to just draw the contour, and then I used colored pencil for the background. And for this one, I used a watercolor for the background, and I really like how the texture comes out. And in the middle, I've used a marker to write out the letter. And I like how chunky this one looks. And this one is a little bit tricky because I used acrylic ink for the background, and on top, I add a second layer with a colored pencil. If you have ever used a colored pencil on top of acrylic ink, it's kind of hard to register the mark. So this one took me a while. And then the dots are made with marker. So this one is really fun. I've used a color pencil for the letter itself, and I kind of try to follow certain flow to use the color block. And then I used the gouache for the background. It's kind of hard to tell, but I think originally this one has two colors. You can see the warmer tone seeping through this dark greenish blue color. And for this one, I sketched out first and then used watercolor for the background and then fill it in, erase my sketches and fill it in with colored pencil. And last but not least, this guy, I've used a liner brush to sketch out the contour of the letter and then just fill out the background with acrylic ink. And for our video, I'm gonna draw something similar to this, but with a different letter. Instead of drawing L, I'm gonna draw letter C. I'm just gonna set it aside and talk about materials. In terms of materials, it can be really flexible. So you wanna have something that you can sketch and erase later. So pencil and eraser. It would be nice to have some printer paper or some paper that you don't use anymore so that you can use it to do drills to warm up your hands. When your hand muscles are warm, it's a lot easier to write the letter. It's a lot easier to control where you want the lines to be. And then we want something that can quickly cover a large area. This can be different for different people. For our demo, I'm gonna use my color marker, especially use the big tip. So if you tilt the angle, you can color a large area pretty quickly. But some alternatives are watercolor. So you can just use either tubes or pens and then just like spray them. So they can be pre-wetted, so you can just paint on top, especially for the background. This one does require maybe a couple more minutes for drying, but just keep that in mind. And another alternative, and I also really like these sticks. They're kind of like crayon, but they can cover things pretty quickly. So they're between, I would say, a lipstick and crayon. I love these ones, and they're water soluble as well. So you can pick up a brush and then just wet it with, let me just show you really quickly. You can pick up a brush and then just wet it. You can change where the pigments go. So this is pretty nice. Other than that, you would need something for the third layer. For this one is this black mark. I'm gonna use my brush pen, which has a pretty nice brush tip. And you can also use fountain pen or ballpoint pen or marker or even a really dark pencil. So this one is a fountain pen. I might use this as well. So that's our basic art supplies. Last but not least, you do need some thicker paper for the gift tags itself. I kind of rounded out my corners, and for some gift tags, I've also used my hole punch so that I can loop some kind of colorful thread or twill. So that's the gist of things. I have some blank cards over here, and I will use that for our letter. So I'm gonna sketch out the white contour first. Since we're drawing letter C, I'm just gonna show you the process on the side first. You can draw out however you normally write letter and then just like grow the line to make it a bit thicker. The easiest way to do that is to just give it a crossbar right here and then just draw a parallel line around it. Since we're using pencils, we can easily erase the mark later. There's no permanent consequence whatsoever. So that will be our letter. So I'm just gonna do that process. Keep in mind that if you are going to have a loop like this, you want your letter to sit a bit lower on the tag so you don't end up accidentally punching through any letters. So I'm just gonna write a letter C. You can see that my letter is bigger than I wanted. If I grow it with this as the middle line, it's gonna sit too close to the bottom. So I am gonna improvise and shrink this letter and give it a thicker parallel line from the inside. There's no rules for this, so you can just write however you would normally write. And it's really, really special when someone receives anything handmade. For the next step, I'm gonna see my outline as a boundary and then just color around it. And this part can be really relaxing if you're batching, making a bunch of them for your Christmas gift giving. You can watch a show or something. You don't have to think too hard. Maybe listen to audiobook, something like that. I like using markers for this particular project because it dries really fast, so I can easily layer it without having to wait for too long. Alternatively, if you really like how the watercolor or gouache looks, maybe something that requires longer drying time, you can also use your hair dryer. As long as there's no pooling on the paper, so there's no like puddles of water, you can easily dry it. Otherwise, you have to be mindful because the movement of the water after the hot air hits it, it's gonna pull the pigments together with it. If you want to keep it simple, this is already gift tag, maybe someone's initial. In this format, I kept it the same letter, but if you want to keep it, maybe write their initial, you can just add a different letter on top. So I'm just erasing it so the bottom looks a bit cleaner. I sketched it a bit harder with the pencil because I want the camera to be able to pick up the contrast. But if you're just making it for yourself, not filming like me, you probably want to write it a bit lighter. You can leave the background as it is. You can also add a different media. I think pencil would be really great. I'm gonna do another layer of pink with the marker so that it has a kind of different tone. And also when the color strokes overlap, it creates really nice texture. I think that's really cool. In the holiday free workshop demo, I've also shown using pen pastel, which is also another cool media that you can cover a large area with a short amount of time. You just need if you use makeup, it's pretty much like the foundation, like a powdery foundation. You put it there and then just smudge it. I'm not looking for perfection here. You can tell right here, there's a gap. I'm not looking to be like a machine. The charm of handmade gift tag is handmade. A human worked on it and you can see it. All right. So that is our background. And for the next step, I'm gonna use my brush pen to letter a script letter. And again, if writing script letter is new to you, you can Google cursive or script alphabet so you can have some inspiration. I'm gonna use this brush pen because the ink is really punchy. I'm gonna squeeze it a little more to encourage more ink to flow down. And I know that I also need to do some practice drills. This is how I'm gonna write the letter C. But I'm gonna just write it a few times because I cannot erase this or double tap to undo like iPad. So I'm gonna be mindful before I jump in. I'm just gonna grab a different one for the demo. Typically, I do like having textures, but for this one, I want a thicker, more confident stroke. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead. If you're not sure, you can sketch out the contour so you know how the dynamic of the two letters is going to interact. And you can just go ahead and write out your letter. Ooh, I love the textures. Okay, that is my letter C. Okay, so typically when you draw downstroke, it's gonna be a bit thicker than the upstroke. All right, here we are. We have a letter. If you like what you're seeing, please consider subscribing to my channel.